Hi, this is Tamika Jacques from Fruitful Vision Enterprises. I am the CEO, and also I am the author of A Brown Girl's Guide to Employment and Networking. What does Fruitful Vision Enterprises do? Well, we help others achieve their life goals. I'm also a career coach as well. So someone comes to me and they say, listen, I'm ready for my next promotion. We help people achieve their career goals no matter what their level is.
Hello, Miss Tamika. So Tamika and I have known each other for years because we did our undergrads together.
We did.
Way back when. And I just like watched the evolution of you for so many years, but no one else that's listening to you has. So we're going to start there. Where did Tamika come from? So let's just start at the beginning of tell us who you are.
Well, where did I come from? My gosh. So I grew up in Massachusetts, if you want to go back a little further. Grew up in Massachusetts. As Jodi said, I went to Suffolk University as undergrad.
No.
What?
No. Are you kidding me? Did you just jump from I grew up to I went to college? Are you kidding? How do people just do that? No.
Did I tell you that I hate you? I hate you so much.
Okay, so let's just rewind and let's just give us a little bit more history and more context of who you are. Tell us the story. We need to understand the story before we get to know the school and the education because there's so much to you. So
what though? Like
tell me about who you are.
Okay. Lord, have mercy. God help me with this child in front of me. All right. So as Jodi mentioned, yes, we met in undergraduate. But before that, I grew up in Massachusetts in a small suburb located on the South Shore. An interesting fact about me is that I grew up in a town and I went to a high school that had a population of 1% of people, that looked like me. And I feel like that has shaped me to who I am. It helped me want to go to, when I graduated from high school, it helped me want to go to a diverse college, which is where I met Jodi. And also I wanted to be in the city because I grew up in a small town. I grew up in the suburbs. And so from that point, I feel like my undergraduate career really exposed me to diversity and meeting others and just engaging with others who did not think like you. And so from there, I moved to New York for a little bit, actually, because I just love the city so much. And then I came back to Massachusetts after about 4 or 5 years living in New York. And have always just, my background, I feel like has always shaped me. And so, when someone says, well, what do you do? What does your business do? I feel like that I love to encourage people and also to put people on the right career track.
But the thing is, I'm definitely going to push back over a little bit because to understand what the company is, we have to understand who you are. So when you were saying how you grew up in a town that didn't have that much diversity, but was it something that your parents instilled in you? Is it something that you were really just it bothered you when you were younger? All
right, I'm going to share a story. You ready? Here we go.
Okay, I'm ready. Go for it.
So you can edit this in however way your editor is going to.
We don't edit. We don't edit.
Oh my God.
We don't edit.
Here we go. Here we go. So, okay. So I'll take you back into high school. And because, a lot of people have asked why am I at this point where I'm at, right? And I'm just going to throw out the title of my book for a second. So it's called A Brown Girl's Guide to Employment and Networking. Why am I concentrating, the title on that? Why am I concentrating on workforce, which is I'm going to tell you why. I told you I grew up in a small town. And when I was talking about the 1% that looked like me, so the other 99% did not look like me. And so what that meant was that I would be riding home on a school bus and I would talk and I would hear people on the school bus saying, what are we going to do for Martin Luther King Day? Are we going to throw rocks at Black cars? Or are we going to throw rocks at Black people? And so for me, I think I knew at that moment that I did not want to, I wanted a diverse uh, bunch of people around me. I wanted a diverse network because I did not want to be just like anyone else. You don't want to be judged, but in my case, it was being judged on my skin color because of where I lived. There was really, out of a high school of 1,200 people, there was only 12 other people that looked like me in my high school. So I think that really shaped to who I am today, that I just wanted to have a diverse network. And I wanted to encourage others, I think, as I get older, people that have gone through different challenges in their life, because it's not always about race, it could be about gender. But in my case, I think that growing up in a small town where people did not look like me really shaped my life and what I wanted to do. So
when you had that situation, I mean, were you able to talk to your parents about that? And I go, and how did you grow up? And how did they prepare you for, now you're in the small town, but you are seeking out larger areas, like larger schools, larger communities. How did your parents prepare you for all of that? Or did they just like say, you fend for yourself?
So my parents, since I was young, I think they've always prepared me that you will be judged by your skin color, but that does not define who you are, right? So you're going to have to go through life with people judging you based on your skin color because of where we lived. I mean, I joke around with people, and when people say like, why do you hustle so hard, or why are you motivated so hard? Because if you look at it, I am like one generation away from poverty, right? So my parents grew up in poverty, but they decided that they were going to make a way out. And so their way out was moving out of Boston, moving into the suburbs, hustling hard. My dad was an electrician. My mom went to school to be an accountant. And so they decided to make that career path and take me out to make sure that I wasn't in what they had grew up in, right? And so they prepared me that there's some people that's not going to like you because of the street you live on. We lived on a street where we had the biggest house, right? There's people that are not going to like you just because you live in a big house. They're not going to like you because of your skin color, but you need to not be bothered by what they say and keep getting your education. My parents always said education, 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 because that's going to be your pathway to success. And so, no, they didn't leave me just to fight for myself. But there were times where, yes, you felt like you're alone, because what are you going to do on the school bus? Stand up with the other 40 kids and say, who are you talking about? Throwing throwing rocks to? Nope. I wasn't going to stand up and get beat up on that day. So you sit there and you think about it and you reflect on it, and you turn that reflection into positive, to help others, right? And to share your story with others, and to let others know that no matter what the challenges are, what people are saying or how they're judging you, you can still make it no matter what.
So now you have this like nice cushion. I use cushion in a way that people don't use cushion, but you have a nice cushion that your parents have like protected you. They have educated you. They've given you a nice cushion of like, okay, no matter what comes my way, I can deflect. I have that cushion around me. You're still in a small town. You decide to go into the city. So you're leaving the small town in Massachusetts, going to a bigger city, from Boston to New York. So walk me through why Boston and then to New York. And New York is New York is a behemoth to deal with on so many different levels. So walk me through like how and why did you do that?
Sure. Okay, so everyone in my town, I'm not going to name the town, but everyone in my town went to the university in my town, right? And bragged about it. Oh, I'm going to go to this university and I'm going to live there. And my question was, why would you want, and again, no offense to anyone that wants to do this, but why do you want to live in the same town that's like 5 minutes down the street from your house and go stay in a residence hall? But it was because, again, they wanted to be around people that looked like them, right? I wanted to be around people that looked like me. Not all the people to look like me. I just wanted a more diverse network. So the reason why I went to Boston to college in Boston was because I saw opportunity. I saw when I went for for orientation, I saw others that looked like me. I saw others that were in job positions that looked like me. Because you have to remember, again, from my small town high school, I never had a teacher that looked like me, right? So you go to the big city and it's like, wow, there's people that look like me and they don't have the same ideas as me, and they think different. And so when you see that, people say, like, how could you live in New York? Well, I mean, it's a melting pot. You want to get immersed as much as you can. And when I left Boston, it was because of opportunity, right? So I was able to lead. I worked at a college in New York, in Queens, and I was able to lead, a department at 24 years of age. And for me, it was just more, I went to the big city because I always saw as opportunity. And, in small towns, a lot of time they think small, right? And in cities, they think big. And so I had this great opportunity when I left Boston to go lead my own department in New York. And not only that, it was like, it was amazing because my boss was, the same skin color as me, and so more, I feel like it was just, you move towards where the opportunity is. And I didn't see opportunity, living in Massachusetts. I didn't see that opportunity for me.
It's funny because I swear I totally forgot this, where when you said New York, you lived in New York, and I'm thinking in my mind Manhattan, and I'm like, and I remember coming to your apartment in Monsey, New York. And when most people will think, oh, I want to be surrounded by diversity, people just automatically think black, white.
Right.
But you went into Monsey where it's Hasidic Jews.
Yes.
Or if you're in Israel, traditional. I mean, so
Yep.
different names for different Israeli groups. But you're literally a brown person in Massachusetts in a predominantly Hasidic Jewish community. Like,
true story.
But Hasidic Jew where I remember we were in your apartment, like, what's that? They're like, oh, it's their helicopter. Someone's sick. They bring in their own helicopter for the same community. So how was that? I mean, game changer, where small town, Massachusetts, going into the city, going to college. Now you're working in Queens, but you're living in a specific community where you could have lived anywhere. Why did you choose that community? What did you learn from that community? With everything that you've been through, but what did you learn living in that specific one when it comes to diversity?
Sure. So first of all, I lived there because I could not afford to. First of all, I worked at a college, right? And I wasn't a millionaire working at a college. So I loved New York City and I loved Queens, but being single and you don't want roommates, it just wasn't affordable for me at that time at the pay I was receiving, right? So I chose Muncie because it was affordable. At that time, it was $700 a month for a 1-bedroom, and it was big too. It wasn't like, a small little studio. It was big, had a little kitchen, the living room, the bathroom. So I chose that neighborhood because it was affordable. And not only that, but again, like, how big do you think, right? So, it was great for me to be in that culture and to go in the grocery store and to eat, Jewish food or Israeli food. I mean, for me, that's what I wanted in my life, So I knew my neighbors upstairs. I knew, because it was a Jewish community, I knew my neighbors across the hall. And let me tell you, they looked out for me. Like, they would be like, you came home late last night. Is everything okay? Do you need anything? And so for me, it was, like you said, it's not just a black and white. It wasn't just a black and white issue. It was living in this community that on Friday nights, no one drove. They walked, right? They walked until the next day to celebrate their tradition, their culture, every Friday. And so you were in this community that, the women wore wigs because, they believe in shaving off their head. They had a lot of children. They believe in multiplying. And so, you were able to just see that culture, be immersed. And, I don't say this lightly, but they weren't scared of me because of my skin color. Do you know what I'm saying? So for me, being up there, it was everything to me. It was everything. And even when I moved to New York, I knew like 2 people, honestly. But when I left, I made amazing friendships and, just I celebrate that piece, that I had enough, being an only child, that I had enough courage to leave my parents, leave Massachusetts, and just go try something new, you know?
I remember that time. I commend you because I have a lot of my American-based relatives that are in the States are in New York. And I love that you were there. It was a great way to visit my friends, and visit you at the same time. But I also commended you because that is a big change. Being an only child, coming from a small town, being in the city, knowing everything that was so familiar to you, and not just going to New York, but going into a very, very traditional community. I think that was what a life-changing thing, because most people don't like change.
Yeah.
They change and they like security. You said it about your classmates that were, I went to the college in my town because it was familiar. And you're like, I'm going to go way outside of that. I want to be outside of that box. So before you went to Monzi, you went to college. What were your majors and why did you select them?
Undergraduate was international economics. And, don't ask me why I chose that major, but I did. That's another podcast story.
Like that major helped you in Monzi. Because I feel like it kind of brought the worlds together.
Yeah, but I never really touched economics. I really never had a passion for it, right? And that's something you learn as you go through life. It's international economics, you learn about it, but it really wasn't my passion. And what happened was, from meeting Jodi, being involved in student organizations, I really say that's how I found my passion, right? So just being on the programming board with Jodi, being in Black Student Union, being a cheerleader, being just really immersing everything that I felt I couldn't do in high school and doing that in college. And so, I'm in this degree that it wasn't my passion, but my passion was really like programming, helping others, planning events. And I knew I loved higher education. So I went to get my master's in college student development and counseling, leaving the economics behind because it really wasn't my passion. And then part of my master's degree, I had a fellowship at the university, and I was able to advise fraternities, sororities, manage a lot of events for them. And that's really, I guess, where I found my passion, knowing that it would be in higher education and learning about that. And that's really what got me to New York. Was I was director of student support services, working with first generation, low income, and disabled students. So, I feel like even though I didn't major necessarily in my passion in undergraduate, my passion just came out because of the things that I was involved in. And that's what kind of solidified how my future, would keep going. My career path would keep going.
All right. So then what happens next? So you decide, so how many years were you in New York, and what was that moment that you're like, okay, it's time to come back, or what brought you back?
Yeah. So it was 4.5 years, almost going into 5, and then 9/11 hit. And I think, something just, you see the towers coming down, because I worked at a aeronautical college, and we were tapped into the Queens Airport, which is LaGuardia Airport. So we could hear everything that was going on. We had our own tower because we could look from our tower and watch the planes take off. And so because we had our own tower, you could also see the World Trade Center coming down. And so just seeing the look on people's faces, not being able to get home that day because the highways were closed down, it was just, you know what, you really need to move back and be with your family, right? You're having a great time and it's close. It's only 3 hours away from where I was, but life happens and you have to pivot a little bit. And being honest, I had applied to go for my doctorate degree in New York, and there was 2 colleges that I wanted. They didn't want me. So I said, you know what? 9/11 hit, it's time to go back home, and maybe I will start applying to universities in the New England area. So that's what really brought me back here. And I have to say, it wasn't an easy move because I was leading a department when I moved to New York. I was 24. I'm leading a department. I'm managing a department. And again, you come back to Massachusetts who sometimes can think small, and I could not get the same job that I was doing in New York because of just small minds, and verified through my network. I would ask people, this person that interviewed me, and they would say, well, they keep saying you're very young. Okay, but my experience is I can manage, I can budget, all the skills that were needed. So it was not easy to come back to Massachusetts, let me say that.
And so how did you get, so what happened next? So you finally got back here. You're now you're applying for your doctorate. Which school did you end up going to?
Yes. So I come back here, I can't find a job. Let me just say this, I could not find a job in higher education. So I had a master's degree in college student development and counseling. It wasn't so much I could not find a job, I couldn't find a job on the level that I had in New York. And I refused to accept, I was a director of student support services. And, people would say, well, just take a program manager job or assistant director job. And it was like, no, I'm not going to do that because I have my education, I've proved myself. And so what happens is I couldn't find the correct position in higher education. So I went to work for Congressman Stephen Lynch, who was in Massachusetts. And I went to work for him for about 4 years. And during that time, I also applied at Johnson & Wales University for a doctorate degree in educational leadership because I have a passion for education, training programs. That's just something that I have a passion for. And Johnson & Wales accepted me. And, I worked for Congressman Lynch for 4 years. And while I was working for him, I started teaching adult basic education, English as a second other language courses at Bristol Community College. And from that point, Deval Patrick had got in as governor of Massachusetts, and he appointed Secretary Suzanne Bump to be the director of labor and workforce development in Massachusetts. And I ended up interviewing for her because she was looking for someone that could do some policy work around adult basic education, English as a second other language. So I end up going from Congressman Lynch to working for the Secretary of Labor and Workforce Development. I was the executive director of the Massachusetts Workforce Investment Board under her. And that opportunity opened my eyes to policy as well as training programs, again, in my passion, adult basic education in general. And so that's kind of how, that career path moved at that time.
So I love this trajectory of you could have just taken the job, the lower, not that it's not a good job, but it would have been a demotion from what you've worked so hard for.
Yes.
I love that you also kind of pivoted and you went into politics. How was it for you to be in politics? Because I worked for Governor Romney, and I always tell people no poli-sci class will ever prepare you for being inside of government. No. And you came from a world where politics was not even part of what you were going to be doing. So talk to me about your time being there. What did you get out of that? What did you see? How was everything that you've learned in the past help you form what the position and how you were rolling with it? But also, what did your family think? Because they had watched you evolve. And so what did they think when you ended up in politics after everything that you had accomplished, including your education?
Sure. So let me give you a little disclaimer. My dad is a business agent. He's an electrician, but he rose up to be a business agent. And if anyone has been in a union, you have to hold signs for politicians, whether you like it or not, right? It's part of the initiation process or the process of being part of a union. So I got to be honest with you. I've been holding signs probably since I was 7 years old for people in my town that were running for positions. And so politics wasn't necessarily new to me, but when I went to work for Congressman Lynch, it was more than just holding a sign, right? So honestly, my family was elated. They were like, this is great. This is what we've been preparing you for, holding signs and making phone calls, all those things. So they were elated that I started working for the congressman. What I learned from the congressman is, yes, there's no class that's going to prepare you to work during the day in the office and then be out with the congressman at night. There's no class that's going to prepare you to memorize everybody's name, who that congressman needs to meet. Yep. Who's in the room and how you walk around with that politician and introduce them to people, and have to know when you introduce them to people what the issues are before they even get to the congressman, to brief them on things, and also remember anniversaries, birthdays, and everything else regarding whoever they're talking to, right? I'm sure Jodi knows.
I'm having a full-on flashback in my mind.
Okay, right?
When we were the governor, like literally whispering, I'm like, coming your way, and literally, it was like the craziest thing. And I think that for me, when I was a waitress, and we weren't, the restaurants that I worked at, I wasn't allowed to have a pad. We had to remember every single order, no matter how big or small the table was. That prepared me for that moment.
Yes.
It was literally like, they have so much going on in their heads, and you are, as their representative, the go-to. And it was, I mean, it was like a full-on flashback in my head when you just went down that list of what you have to know when you're sitting next to a representative.
Yes. And so, I mean, anyways, like Jodi said, I think she says it perfectly. No class is going to prepare you for all that, right? I mean, you're just on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is the job. It comes with the job. However, working for Congressman Lynch was amazing. It was great, but I've always had greater career, ambitions, right? So you go to a job and you just say, I know I have more to give. The job was great. I met so many great people. I did constituent services. So if someone had an issue, immigration, I mean, I did all that, helping people get their family members here, working with immigration, social security problems. I did that, and I enjoyed it. But also when Secretary Bump, when I interviewed with her, my passion for education and adult basic education, that was also a passion for me as well. And to be able to work on some workforce policy to really transform, not just be in it, right? But to work on policy that goes across the state, that was amazing. And to implement new policies, I mean, that just, it goes beyond that small town thinking. It's just for a whole state, and it's more people lives that are affected, and more people are being touched. And you want to create economic, stability. And that was just a way for me to really step up my game and really show what I could do, working with various stakeholders and just, changing lives. It's about changing lives, right? So that's how I got to Secretary Bump, from the Congressman Lynch to Secretary Bump. And, it's a appointed position, so it's a little political, a little bit. And I had that experience. So that helped, a lot. That helped me a lot in that position.
I have to say that I worked for an organization that was inside Boston, and every thought and concept was inside Boston. And I'm like, you know what? There's like an amazing state that we have. And not only does amazing state, there's New England and the country. And when you're with the right representative, and I don't care what state you're in, the right representative can actually have that relationship with the players in all different states. And those other players adopt what you've done. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have a person that's willing to work together across the lines to make sure that everyone, they see the power of what you've developed, and then they were like, okay, you know what, we need this in our states, can you teach us?
Yes.
Guide us. And so I think that's it's amazing, where you even said where you were so transfixed in regards of taking care of the state, not just not just one small area. Thinking small, you stay small, think bigger.
True.
When you decided, so now you decided to create a way of educating people to succeed in the workplace. Where did that idea come from? Where did it come from? Why did you do it? And why now? Because you could have done this all along. Clearly we're hearing the path of like what your life has been, but why did this happen right now? Or, I mean, started it, I should say.
Yeah. So the right now part is because I feel like I've had a very, successful career, right? Like I've had amazing mentors, I've had amazing colleagues, and for me, it was working for somebody else. And, I work for an organization, and, you get these great reviews every year.
Mhm.
But however, and I'm delicate with this because they're still my colleagues sometimes, you know what I mean? So very delicately, I felt like I was, moving in my career in the right direction. And when you start to apply for promotions and job advancement, and you're doing good, you have these great reviews, but you're being told, nope, nope, you're not going to get that promotion, or you're not going to, get that next step. And I think for me, it just was, you know what, Tamika, how is there someone else going through what you're going through, right? You have all these successful experiences, and you're doing a great job. Not that I'm, not tooting my own horn, but you're doing a great job. You see all these, rave performance reviews, but yet you're not being promoted and not meeting your career ambition of where you want to go, right? And so for me, why now? It was because I know there's someone else out there that is frustrated, that was in their employment place. They've been doing an amazing job. They're going for promotions. They're being denied. And I wanted to share with them some of my experiences, but I also wanted to share with them how to get that next job, how to get that next promotion. And so a lot of it we know is through networking. You cannot network enough in your life. And I feel like the people that I've met along the way, and the reason why I've, was able to work for Congressman Lynch, able to work for Secretary Bump at that time, who was now state auditor, is because of the networking that my parents had done, I had done. And so I think that I just wanted to teach others how to set up their network correctly, so that when you get denied something, you pivot. I know this is one of your words, Jodi. You pivot, you make the most of it, and you write a book, and then you start a business, So I think that there was other people out there that's just like me, and I needed to share my story, give them the encouragement, and help them on their way.
What is the feedback that you've gotten so far? Because so you started this company, you were in, you just said, like, your parents were elated, but now you're like, I started a company and I'm going to be advising individuals on how to grow. I put out a book that's doing very well. So what was that moment in regards of your circle, family, friends? What did they think about, what are you doing? You've worked really hard and you're in a great place. Like, what?
Yeah. So let me say this, that I move in silence, right? So to be honest with you, there was probably like 3 people in my immediate circle that knew I was writing a book. I think they knew I was frustrated. The main person was my husband, because I'd be up late writing, because I worked during the day. I'd be up late writing on my laptop in the bed. And so he'd be like, turn off the light. No, I can't. I got to get this thought out. And so it was very, I didn't let anyone know, to be honest with you. And I think because, I don't want to use the word embarrassed, but I was shy, because I didn't feel like I was a writer, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that, a lot of times, again, I didn't think I was a writer because of what others had said, but how easy is it to get someone to edit your words, right? And so I kept it quiet, because I had never talked about writing. I had never talked about putting out a book. And, I'm thinking, what are people going to say? Like, who's going to buy this? Who's going to want to hear about it? And so honestly, a lot of people did not know I was writing a book until I got on social media and said, hey guys, I have a book on Amazon, go check it out. And people were like, what? Like, where did this come from? So I didn't really give a lot of people notice. And honestly, I didn't know who was going to buy it. I didn't expect any like promotion really from it. I just wanted to really share my story to help somebody else. And so I'm really surprised that, it did good in a way. Because, I get surprises all the time. That the book made Forbes, 10 best books for networking. Yep. And I'm truly surprised. Like, I'm ultimately,
we are not surprised.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'm truly in shock, because I don't look at myself as someone said, oh, you're an author, you know, a few months after the book came out. And I was like, who's an author? Who are you talking about? You know, because that wasn't my mission. That wasn't my goal. You know, if someone says, what do you want to do? What's your dream job? Honestly, I'm doing my dream job because I'm a career coach now. I'm a motivational visionary. I'm a motivational, you know, coach, speaker. And so for me, that book just really propelled me to know that I was living in my purpose, right? And that I didn't have to be validated. You don't want to give me a promotion? That's fine. I didn't have to be validated in what others thought about me. And really, you know, when you look in the mirror, I'm my biggest competitor, you know, at this point. Like there's no one else that I feel like, you know, I'm competing against, because it's what I do, what I set my challenges to. And that took a long time to really, for me to realize that, because when you're getting denied promotions and, you know, different raises, yeah, it's like a punch in the stomach, but you have to choose to rise up and pivot and make, you know, your life for yourself. So.
I'm going to bring it to this throughout my entire life. So, I mean, I am the person where I am a marketing strategist. I've been a marketing strategist my entire life. I didn't have the title. I didn't know it was a title until I was like far along in my career, but I've been doing it since I was like younger. Always making sure that the family, the brand, my friend brands, I mean, I'm bringing people together. Anything underneath the world of marketing I've been doing, it's just part of who I am.
Yes.
With the world, we're dealing with two pandemics.
Yes.
Pandemics right now. And we are dealing with individuals that are, hi, I'm working at this company. Everyone thinks it's fine. I'm doing really great. I work late at home at work, but I'm working late in the office because I don't have the Wi-Fi. I don't have the resources in my home. No one knows what's going on, but now they're seeing my world. We're dealing with Black Lives Matters. Even before Black Lives Matters, we're dealing with when the pandemic, the Asian community being attacked. Like, I mean,
yes,
I'm in my home, and now I'm born and raised, second generation, third generation, living in America, and I'm being chased down my street by people saying you brought in Corona. We have Black Lives Matters, where there's a nice menagerie of individuals now fighting for Black Lives Matters, but we are still having a major situation where people are being harmed every single day. And in the office space, people aren't getting those promotions.
Yeah.
Great careers, did everything right, everyone loves you, still not getting that job over and over again. So pandemics, we have pandemics going on right now. What is this time doing for you with what you're doing? So, I mean, what you're doing, what you're promoting, even before the pandemic happened, this is what it's been evolving. Your life has been changing. You've been cultivating this amazing path. You're doing very well. And you're doing very well because, I'm assuming, because the pandemics. What has this pandemics, what at the beginning when it first started in March to now, what has it done for you? How do you see it evolving? Do you see this as a short-term change or a long-term change of the movements that are happening? And I keep putting the S's on it because people just keep saying it's one. I mean, like, we have a lot of things.
True.
So it's a very loaded question what I just asked you, but there's a lot going on that all fit into your world right now. So
yeah,
what it was for you at the beginning when it first started and how it's evolving and where is it going?
So I think for me, and I like the way that you said it's pandemics, right? Because it's not just one. So I think this is a long-term, we're in a long-term situation. And for me, you know, at the beginning of the pandemic, I think I was like everybody else, like in shock. What? I'm not going to work. My child is not going to school anymore, right? And so you're in shock. Then, you know, George Floyd happens, right? And the whole world is like, what's going on? But let me tell you, this wasn't new to someone like me. It's new to a lot of people because now their eyes are open, but it wasn't new. But I think with the George Floyd, as it transformed the world, it gave me motivation to know that my title, A Brown Girl's Guide to Employment and Networking, was on point, right? Because there was so many brown people out there that had been ignored, right? And the reason why I didn't say a Black girl's, you know, guide to employment and networking, because I didn't want it so just for one, you know, section, you know, how do you say it, race? I wanted it for people that were brown, right? So if you see the cover, it's different shades of brown on there. And so for me, this pandemic and, everything that has taken place during the pandemic, it really just affirmed for me that I needed to continue writing. Right. And so that this was not just a one off, like I wasn't just going to write one book and that would be it. Right. So, um, the pandemic helped me to slow down. It helped me to start writing my next book, but it also, in my personal career, people were calling me now around diversity, equity, and inclusion workshops. So it actually propelled my career because now the things that I've been talking about for the past, oh my gosh, 15 years, now everybody's ear was open. I remember what you said, people would email me. I remember what you said in this workshop. Can you talk about it more? Can you share your story? And so for me, the pandemic, I've been able to share my story more than I've ever shared my story, sharing what I've been through. So career-wise, the pandemic has been great for me. And I realized that people are out there dying, and people are dying because of their skin colors. But personally, from my career, it propelled it because people were like, we consider you the expert, share your story, help us to train our staff. And so career-wise, my business has taken off, should I say. But then again, with everything that takes off personally, and this, Jodi, during the pandemic, my house caught fire. So I had to, while my business was taking off and I'm trying to write, now I'm dealing with having to, deal with my house burning down, living in a trailer, and trying to get back on my feet while I'm being in demand at the same time. And I want to write a second book. And so, it's had ups and downs, but this is a long term. When people ask about diversity, equity, and inclusion, I have to remind them all the time, listen, I can come in and talk to your staff, but they're not going to change in one day. This is something that's going to take years of training, years of speaking to, because of we grow up, our parents are brainwashed. We're brainwashed by our parents as well as we should be. And so we all have to make changes in our lives, and change does not always happen overnight. It's a gradual thing. It takes years. And that's why that, someone like you, we're innovators because we're always willing to change and to listen. Right. So, I think that this pandemic it's helped me personally, like career-wise, it's helped me personally, it's helped me reflect to know that material is just material, and lives cannot be replaced. So I don't know if I answered your question fully, but that's just.
You did, and then you added the whole entire, during a pandemic and losing your house, but not losing your family because you have a young family. And so, and then working and writing a book. You, in a 9-month span, you've been doing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So outside of the great work that you're doing, which is, it's amazing how, again, we met in college, and how you've evolved and you've done so many things. How have you been dealing with juggling of all? Not even just both, but you've been juggling so many different things. And also you have a little one at home that you're like school, like learning from virtual learning. So how are you able to juggle everything? And for anyone that's out there that's listening, that is thinking about, I want to start something, I'm not sure, where do I go? I have a family. I'm keeping up with the house. I'm keeping up with my spouse. I'm single. They have all these different excuses. What would be some advice that you'd give, 1 or 2 advice points that you'd give that a person that really wants to do something like you did, but yet is overwhelmed by so much that they're dealing with every single day?
Yeah. So I think for me, right out there, Jodi, I'm a woman of faith. So I pray a lot. I'm just going to put it out there. I pray a lot. And for me, I feel like when something gets really down inside of me, I'm going to do it. And so I think that if you have something on your mind that bothers you every single day, right? So let's just say, for example, you want to buy a house, you want to buy a house, you want to buy a house. Everywhere you see, a house for sale sign, you get on TV, they're talking about selling houses. If you see something in front of you, you cannot ignore it, right? I'm a firm believer we all have a purpose in life. And if there is something that is weighing down on you and you can't sleep and you just keep thinking about it and thinking about it, I just say, get up and write it down, one book that I've been reading for the past, 25 years, it came out in the 80s, I believe, or the 90s. It probably came out in the 90s. So it's called Write It Down, Make It Happen. And so even if you don't think it can happen, I just say to someone, write it down. I'm very big into vision boards. Get your vision board done. But you have to think of, I guess for me, I'm thinking of the future. Where do I want to be in 20 years? And I know where I want to be is not currently where I am right now, right? And so whoever is out there that wants to start a small business, and I don't like using the word small business because your business is big. Whatever you decide to do, we define small business because of employee size, but whatever your idea is huge, because it comes from you. So, you have to just get up, write it down. If you're up at night, if something is keep on your heart, you just got to get it out there. And I think you'll see once you write it down, things will come, right? It will just start coming to you. Oprah said, you get out of life what you have the courage to ask for, right? So if it is to open that business, just write it down. What does it look like? What does it look like if it did happen, and it will happen. So I think for me, yes, I'm a woman of faith, but I'm also ambitious, and I want more out of life. It's great that, people will look at me and say, oh yeah, you made it, you got the house, you got the kids, you got the husband, except for the dog, you don't have the dog, that's it. I don't have time for a dog, but I haven't made it. That's great that people look at me like that, but I haven't made it because there's things that I want out of life. And now that, to the parents out there, you look at your children, there's things that I want for my children. So it's not just about me. I want things for my children's children's children. And in order for me to do that, then I better set up my business now, make some income, invest. And so you have to, if you want to start a business, you got to think beyond yourself. And I think, Jodi, you don't have children right now, but the thing with your business, Jodi, is you help so many people, and those are your children, right? The people that you're helping, the people that you've mentored. So it's not just about children that you've birthed. It's about people that have come into your life. So you are preparing others for their children's children's children. Like, we're thinking about generation. We're leaving a legacy here. That's what we want to do.
And I think that you said it so well. I mean, you literally articulated so well where people are, well, one is fear. I mean, the fear of failure, the fear of what other people are going to say about you. And then it's just like write it down, like just in that moment of writing it down and getting it done. Where do you see, I have two more questions for you. Where do you?
I have like 3 minutes. I got to be honest. I got to run.
Oh, okay. All right. So you know what? Then all right. So, well, I'm still going to ask you my two questions. So where do you see the industry of companies really evolving and making sure it's a very diverse, unique group of people in their workforce? We all know that whole entire story. The more diversity, the better your company. But again, if I'm stuck and if this is only the way I know how to do things, I'm going to do it only one way. Yeah. So how do you see the future going for that? And yeah, answer that one quickly, and I'll ask you the last question.
Okay. So sorry. So I see that they're going to have to accept diversity because bottom line is profit. Businesses that embrace diversity, embrace culture, embrace their employees, embrace the customers, because it's not just about the employees, it's about customers, supply chain. You want to make a profit, especially in this pandemic. There's businesses that are closing that have been around for eons and eons of years. If a business wants to be profitable, and there's studies out there that show if you embrace diversity, that your businesses makes 15% more. In this business game, you have to embrace it if you are going to stay alive. because, servicing just one culture or just one set of customers, it's not going to work. You have to be innovative. So if someone wants profit, and I know, why would we be in business? You know what I mean? Like, I know life serving, but we want to make profit. Let's be real. I want to be a billionaire, so it's going to have to happen. And I think employees are just not going to take it anymore. The talented individuals that are there, especially with women more going to universities more than men, they're going to have to embrace it, or else they're just simply not going to be able to function.
Okay, last question. If you had a personal ask and a professional ask of anyone that's listening to you right now, what would be your personal ask and what would be your professional ask?
Personal ask would be, can someone please send my furniture because I'm waiting in my house, and because of COVID, I'm silly. Because of COVID, my bedroom set probably won't come till sometime next year. So my personal ask is, can someone just get me my furniture on time so that I'm not sleeping on my blow up mattress? I'm grateful to be back in my house, don't get me wrong, but if someone could, that's my personal. Career ask is, my dream, when I think of my business and my dream, personally, career wise, I would love to be on the Today Show one day talking about my books and talking about my next book. So, career wise, to propel it, my ask would be, if you know anybody on the Today Show or on media, I'm your girl. Just I want to be on one of those shows. You know what I mean? Because I don't know, just one of my dreams, be on the Today Show, be on Good Morning America, talking to Robin Roberts. I mean, those are just some career dreams. So
I love it. Oh my God, I love you so much. I know this is like a fast rapid replay, but you know what? You were fooling around too much at the beginning of this. This is why.
Sorry.
So I love and adore you.
Love you. I gotta go, girl.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.